Blackstone Audio presents Knife Music by David Carnoy. Part 1. Gall and Glory. Chapter 1, Code 3. November 9th, 2006, 11:16 p.m. The trauma alert went off in Parkview Medical Center's emergency department. 4 miles from the hospital, there'd been an accident. "I have a 16-year-old female involved in an MVA," a paramedic informed the triage nurse at Parkview by CB radio. "She's awake at the scene, arousable, but she appears to have had some head and neck injuries, as well as chest and abdominal injuries involving the steering column." The girl's Volkswagen Jetta had jumped the curb and hit a telephone pole at high speed. Although she was wearing a seat belt, the front end of the car was crushed and the steering wheel driven back into her, pinning her to her seat. Rescue personnel had tried to move the seat back, but the tracks were jammed, and they were forced to squeeze her out the best they could. Using all his strength, the fireman pulled the wheel a few inches away from the girl while paramedics carefully tugged on her until she was freed. "We're arriving Code 3 in 4 minutes, the paramedic said. Ted Cogan, the senior trauma surgeon in the hospital that evening, came down to the emergency department from his on-call room on the 2nd floor just as the paramedics were wheeling the victim into the hospital. Cogan was a tall man of medium build, made to look even taller by the clogs he was wearing, which, when he walked on the hard, bare floors of the hospital, came out sounding like the slow clip-clop of a horse pulling a tourist carriage. Only a few minutes earlier, he'd been resting comfortably in bed, dozing. One side of his hair, graying at the temples, was standing on end, and his green scrub shirt was not tucked into his pants in the front. Rumpled as he was, though, the look didn't add years to him. Instead, it gave him a boyish charm, as if he were late for school rather than on time for work. The paramedics steered the victim into the trauma room, white and young with blonde hair. She was looking up at the ceiling, her mouth covered by an oxygen mask. In the room, the head trauma nurse, Pam Wexford, started barking orders at an intern. "We need you on that side. No, there. Okay, on 3, we lift." They transferred the girl, who was strapped to a hardboard stretcher, her neck stabilized by a cervical collar, from the paramedic's gurney to the trauma room gurney. Cogan moved into the room, but stood off to the side, trying to stay out of the way.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?